What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of Go Talk Markers presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. Last week, Peyton Doyle and Emmett Savoris joined me on the show as we talked all things NFC and AFC North. This week, my guy Jalen Hunter of the Unpopular podcast is joining the show to talk all things NFC and AFC East. We are just about 3 weeks away from the NFL season, so there's a lot to talk about for both divisions. So I'm not going to bore you guys anymore with the intro. We're going to get right into it. Stay tuned next for Go Talk Marcus.
Give them a shot to do what?
Jalen, my man, how you doing, bro?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. Jalen and I were kind of talking before the show about how somehow it just always works out. Where whenever I have to bring Jalen on, he's dropped an episode about a similar topic every time. Never.
Like I said, the stars might be aligned or something.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think the universe just knows when it's time.
Give them a shot to do.
Didn't mean to do that. Pressed the wrong thing. That's my bad. Speaking of stars aligning, if you're a Commanders fan, there's a lot to be happy about because there's a lot to be happy about. There's a new era ushered in DC because Dan Snyder is no more. As we all know, the Commanders have been sold to a new ownership group, and this season will mark the first season post Dan Snyder. This would also be yet another season where someone other than the quarterback that started last season will be starting at quarterback for the Commanders. So while we're getting away from one bad thing, it looks like we are continuing the cycle of another. You are a Commanders fan, Jalen. What should we expect from Sam Howell this season?
To be honest with you, I don't know. And that is the broadest I can put it. I know that we're basing our opinions on him off of a Cowboys game that the Cowboys gave away the last game of the season. And we're also giving the preseason game against the Browns. I mean, I know we had a shot to get Lamar Jackson. That didn't happen because we love Sam Howell so much.
Yep.
And for the longest, our offensive line has been terrible. And yes, we got his name. I think Andrew White or something from Chiefs. But I still think our offensive line is going to be a weapon. I mean, going to be a problem. And I don't know, man. It's gonna. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not as articulate as I want to be, but the Washington team that we've seen for years now is, I think, the same that we're going to see. Has trouble or inconsistency at the offensive line, inconsistency at the quarterback. The defensive line is still one of the best in football. Terry McLaurin is going to put up Terry McLaurin numbers. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much winning that's going to equate to. And I need to see more until I just got my hands around Sam Howell and say, it's you. You know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think here's the tough thing if you're a Commanders fan, but also like just for the Commanders in general as far as where we're looking at. We are talking about a division that as a whole statistically was the greatest division we've seen in the history of football. Like there is not like this division, and we give the NFC East a lot of slack for the inconsistency and a lot of slack for how up and down it is. This division last year gave us the best overall win-loss record we've ever seen from a single division in the history of the league. More specifically, though, since 2002, which is when the leagues were realigned to how they are now with the eight division lineup for each conference. The problem, though, is like the Eagles got better. The Cowboys, you could say, make an argument that Cowboys got better. You can make an argument that the Giants got better. There's there's no argument to be made from an on the field standpoint that the Commanders got better. Now, of course, if you want to say that the culture on the Commanders is expected to be better because of the transition from Dan Snyder to the new ownership group, I've got no pushback there because the bar is super low as far as good culture. Like, just keeping your hands to yourself and not taking advantage of your cheerleaders warrants for some good culture if you're the new ownership group. But on the field, this team didn't get better. There's a strong argument to be made that this team got worse. And if I'm Sam Howell, like, I agree with you. I don't know what there is to expect because we have no tape on the guy. We really don't know. Like, which in a way could be a good thing because maybe he comes out there and he surprises the world and shocks the world, kind of like what Taylor Heineke did, and he does good things, or he actually isn't good. And then it's yet another year of the Commanders trying to figure out who their starting quarterback is going to be, not just from a week-to-week basis, but long-term.
Yeah, there's a echo. I don't know if you can hear that.
Is it? I'll fix it.
But I think that what they're trying to do is, I guess, addition from subtraction, because we see how bad it went with Carson Wentz. I still feel that Ron Rivera, I'm glad he beat cancer and everything, but Ron Rivera isn't the best coach as far as adapting and as far as making adjustments. I don't think that he's that good of a coach. So yeah. Sam Howell might not be, and I'm sure if we look at the totality of Carson Wentz compared to the totality of Sam Howell, we would go with Carson Wentz. But like I said, I just don't know what to expect from this team. In fact, I expect a lot of the same, and that is mediocre football. We might beat a team that we're not supposed to beat. We're definitely going to lose a game that we're supposed to win, and I just don't. Again, I understand how he looked in the preseason. He did look really good against the Browns, and he did look really good against the Cowboys. But can that be sustained for an entire season? And that's what I want to see. I want to see how does he fare when he goes up against some of the best defenses in football, like the Eagles. I think that, like the 49ers. But I'm not saying he's going to thrive, but I need to see what I'm just not ready to say that this team is going to make some noise. And again, it's tough for me because I'm a Commanders fan. Unfortunately, grew up 10 minutes away from this, or 10 minutes from the stadium. The FedEx Field, but I don't know. And I know what I know. And I know that sounds simplistic, but I know Terry McLaurin is going to be great no matter who's throwing the ball. I know that our offensive line is going to be poor. I think that it could change. I don't know, with the addition of the guy from the Chiefs. I know our front line is going to be, our defensive front line is going to be great, even though we didn't want to pay, or we didn't want to pick up Chase Young's option for reasons. I know the secondary is going to get burnt a couple times. Good job, Fuller. It's hard for, especially like you said, teams around them. We can talk about the Cowboys. You can talk about the Eagles. They got better, even though the Eagles did lose a lot of people. They did gain a lot from the draft and free agency, and they retained a lot. So I'm seeing a division get better around them. Minus maybe the Giants. We'll talk about them, I'm sure. The division get better when, at best, the Commanders stayed the same.
I think the toughest thing that we have to talk. Football's all about matchups. When you look at the quarterback matchup for the Commanders this season through all 17 games, there's one game this season where you could probably make an argument that Sam Howell would be the better quarterback. Yeah. It's week 1 against the Cardinals because Kyler Murray won't be playing. Maybe there's an argument to be made that Sam Howell is better than Desmond Ridder, but we don't know. We will have to see when that time comes. Every other game, though, obviously Jalen Hurts twice, Dak Prescott twice, Daniel Jones, even if it's Matt Stafford. Like, there is one game this season where the Commanders maybe, or even like you could even maybe make an argument that they have the better quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That is not good when you're talking about long-term success as far as winning football games throughout the course of the season. We're going to go from, unfortunately for the Commanders, which is what they've done the past couple years, they're going to go from having like a kind of promising season with a lot of bright spots to having a season where it looks like they don't know how to play football. And we're projecting it's a long ways away, but when the end of April comes and it's time for Roger Goodell to go out there and announce who the first pick of the draft is, it's very likely the Commanders they're going to be in, like, we are going to be talking about a chance for the Commanders to have the number one overall pick. And for a lot of Commanders fans, that's what they want. They want to bring Caleb Williams to DC, and maybe that kind of fixes things. What I would say in response to that is the last time there was a highly touted quarterback draft pick that was picked in the first round that was supposed to change the franchise around, the franchise didn't do good by him, and they let him go out the door. And then the guy that they also picked that same year, they didn't do good by him either, and he won him a playoff game, and he's also in Minnesota. So a lot of this, there are some teams who just have had bad luck with drafting quarterbacks, like the Jets. There are other teams like the Commanders who just like they got it right and then they failed. And the Commanders got lucky in 2012 because they picked two good quarterbacks. They picked RG3. He didn't pan out because of injury. They picked Kirk Cousins in that same draft in the fourth round, which was kind of surprising to a lot of people. He panned out, won him a playoff game, and then they didn't want to pay him. So a lot of this is because of the Commanders. But again, for Sam Howell, the tough thing is just like, it's not like he doesn't have any expectations, but it's hard to set expectations for Sam because we don't know what we're working with. He looks good in training camp, but I don't know if that's enough.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not asking about a record or whatever, but looking at this Washington team, and of course with Sam Howell being the starting quarterback for the entirety of the season, when we look at the end of the season, what would you deem a successful season for Washington?
I think a successful season for Washington is Sam Howell being what he's supposed to be. Okay. Right. I think so. We have officially entered the era of football where not having a top 10, maybe top 15 quarterback isn't going to cut it. Like when you look across the league and you look across the quarterback talent, like obviously Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes and he's in a class all by himself. But when you're talking about the Joe Burrows of the world and the Josh Allens and now the Jalen Hurts who are in your own division, when you're talking about a guy like Dak Prescott, who I personally gets a little bit gets too much slack because of the team he plays for, not necessarily because of what he brings to the field as a football player. When you have like Lamar Jacksons and Trevor Lawrence's, when you have Justin Herbert, when you even have other young guys that could maybe come into that conversation that were drafted this year, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, like there is a plenty of quarterback talent in this league. Like the days of a non-top 10, top 12 quarterback taking a team to a Super Bowl just as a game manager are gone, right? Like the only team that's come close is the 49ers with Jimmy G. And who did they lose to in the Super Bowl? They lost to Pat Mahomes. They also lost in the NFC Championship game to Jalen Hurts this past season. And the year before that, Matt Stafford, who at the time when he was playing was arguably a top 10 quarterback. Like you cannot comfortably say that you can put a non-top 10 quarterback on the field in a playoff game or in a Super Bowl and expect to win. And so what the Commanders need more than anything else, regardless of wins and losses, regardless of figuring out what's happening with Chase Young, regardless of still trying to convince Terry McLaurin somehow to not request a trade after this season, they need to have a legit answer in Sam Howell, whether it's a yay or a nay. Like there has to be a direction. They've spent the past they've spent the last, when did Kirk leave? Was that 6 years ago? Like they spent the last, let's say 6 years trying to figure out this quarterback issue. They almost had at least a bridge quarterback in Alex Smith, but unfortunately Alex Smith broke his leg and then that was the end of Alex Smith. I don't think they gave enough chance for Taylor Heineke because he looked like he could at least be, again, a bridge quarterback until you find the guy. If Sam Howell's not the guy, that's fine. And if he's not, that means that the Commanders would potentially be in a position to draft their guy. Maybe Caleb Williams, maybe it's a Drake May, whoever the case may be in the draft. If he is that guy and he does produce, then now they can maybe start entertaining building around him, getting more wide receivers, drafting O-linemen, drafting on the defense, getting better running backs to maybe get back to a point where they were in the early 2010s, or we're talking about them making the playoffs and possibly maybe competing for a championship. But a success for the Commanders is Sam Howell is what he was supposed to be when he was drafted, which is a franchise quarterback. If he's not, it's going to be tough to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I agree to what you say, or what you said about having a direction. I feel that one thing that Washington has had is they've had a direction, but they've pivoted on it too fast. Mm-hmm. Either you have a really good quarterback and then you're just like, we have one 8-8 season and it's just scrap it. Or you are not bad long enough to get a good draft pick. I think that a successful season is having a direction. Yep. And like you said, either Sam Howell is really good or he's really bad. Because the last thing you want to do, especially in today's league, is be middle of the pack. Or have a middle of the pack quarterback like the Titans. Mm-hmm. Titans can't go nowhere. No. Even with Derrick Henry. They're not good enough to compete for a championship. But they're not bad enough to have a really good draft pick. And I feel like that's what Washington has been, except for, of course, the RG3 year. So of course, there's always optimism around the Washington teams.
Sure.
And of course, there's always people that think that they're Super Bowl champions, or Super Bowl contenders. And by week 3, it's just like, hope we win a game.
Maybe next year.
But I just think that to me, a win for Sam Howell is you don't look like you don't belong. Yeah. Or you don't look like the moment is too big.
Yeah.
Because I'm almost sure when they drafted Sam Howell, they didn't expect him to be the starting quarterback a year in.
Yeah.
That just shows you how bad the Carson Wentz experience went. Mm-hmm. So you're getting thrusted into a position that you probably didn't expect to be in, at least this early in your career. I want to see how he fares. Because they're saying he can be as good as, I don't know, maybe a quarterback that gets you to the wild card, to get you to the playoff. Or, like you said, he could be that bridge quarterback. And hopefully he loses enough games that we can get Caleb Williams. But I think, especially with the schedule, especially after
it's a tough schedule.
It's a tough schedule. Mm-hmm. You're gonna know very quickly just what you have in this guy.
Yeah, so 100%. And I think again that goes to the defenses that they're playing, and the defenses that they're playing, not including two of the best defenses that exist in their own division. Like, you have to play Denver's defense in Denver, which is supposed to be a good defense. You have to play Buffalo's defense, which it's here, but if Buffalo's defense is healthy, that's a tough defense to go up against. You have to play Chicago's defense, who isn't a great defense, but they did add pieces to that defense to get them better. You like, and then you've got to break. You got the Giants defense. Okay, you got the Patriots defense maybe, but the Seattle Seahawks have a solid defense. The Miami Dolphins, by then, Jalen Ramsey should be back. They have a good defense. As long as Aaron Donald is healthy, the Rams defense is nothing to be played with. And then you have to go to New York and play the Jets defense. And then San Fran comes to town. You have to play this is not a tough schedule, not just from the quarterback standpoint. This is a tough schedule also from the defensive standpoint. And if you're Sam Howell, not only do you have to go out there on your end and you have to try to outduel the opposing quarterback, because the opposing quarterback in every game except the first one is better than you. Mm-hmm. You also have to outplay defenses that are eons better than anything you've ever seen before, and coaches that aren't afraid to make things look crazy. Like Sean Payton, this isn't his first trip around the block. Like Nick Sirianni, he's got a couple, another year under his belt. Brian Daboll, I know he's an offensive guy, but like their defense can still cause problems. Bill Belichick is the defensive guy in the league. So is Pete Carroll. Like we all know how good of a coach Dan Quinn is. Like this isn't just a tough thing as far as, man, I got to go out there and I got to outplay Tua, or I got to outplay Geno Smith, or I got to outplay Dak or Jalen Hurts. I got to make sure that I'm able to understand what's happening defensively so that I'm not getting confused and costing my team and putting them further behind the 8 ball than they already are by already being the more inferior team stepping onto the field. It's going to be tough. I've never predicted an 0-16 season before, and I won't start this season because it is the NFL and anything can happen. But if there was a team that I would scooch into the 0-16 side of things, this would be one of them. Along with the Cardinals. Like, okay, I mean, honestly,
I agree with the Cardinals.
Honestly,
this defense will win us a game.
Absolutely. Whoever loses that week 1 game might actually go 0-16. I think it's pretty possible.
I know C.J. Stroud looked good, but I don't know how them Texans are going to look this year. That's all I'm saying.
Well, the Texans got to play the Colts. Like they're bound to get 1, maybe. The number 1 overall pick is going to be decided week 1. We'll have the answer to that one in week 1. Gotcha. Let's shift gears. And let's talk about the New York Football Giants. Daniel Jones obviously got his money. Saquon Barkley, after what looked like was a kind of sketchy situation, he's at least back for 1 more year. But let's focus on Daniel Jones. Should we expect an improvement from Daniel Jones this season based on what we saw last year?
Let me answer this question with a comparison. Daniel Jones last season reminded me of Michael Carter Williams' rookie season. Now, hear me out. Michael Carter Williams came onto the scene. That was one of the best rookie seasons I remember in a while. Mm-hmm. I think his first game he had a triple-double. He was just incredible.
He had a triple-double against the Heatles.
And everyone expected him to be the next Penny Hardaway. We just saw a trajectory for Michael Carter Williams that was just leaps and bounds. Anything like, oh shoot, this is the next great.
Yeah.
I will pay you $5 if you can tell me the team that Michael Carter Williams is on right now.
I don't think Michael Carter Williams is on the team right now.
He's on the Magic. I'll say this. Yes. I think that last season was more a testament to how good of a coach Brian Daboll is than how good of a quarterback Daniel Jones is. Shouts out to Colin Cowherd. He says something that I never really thought about, but I agree with. You look at a player. You take out his worst season, and you take out his best season. That is who that player is.
True.
And Daniel Jones is pretty consistent and pretty mitty. So I am looking at Brian Daboll. We saw help. He leaves Josh Allen for 1 year, and he leads the league in interceptions again. I'm saying I expect him to have a good season, but I don't expect anything close to what happened last year. Mind you, I think the Giants won, 3 or 4 games or 1-score games.
Yeah,
and that doesn't really happen too often. 2 years in a row.
Sure.
I've seen enough of Daniel Jones to say that I'm not going to call last year a fluke, but last year was a lot more on Brian Daboll than Daniel Jones just having a come to Jesus moment.
Sure.
So run it back, Dan. No. I don't think he's going to run it back. I think that, not to mention, this was a loud offseason for the Giants. Especially when you talk about his contract, Saquon Barkley's contract. People forget Dexter Lawrence held out for a little bit. It was a loud off season for this team, and that's the last thing. Like you said, we're gonna talk about Des Prescott in a second. But like you said, gone are the days where you can have just a game manager, and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Well, the flip side of that is you have to have a team that's just Ravens historic.
Sure.
The Giants aren't that. Yes, their defense is good. They have Tavon Thibodeau. They have Dexter Lawrence. And you at least have Saquon Barkley for a year. But I don't trust the quarterback. Like you said about Sam Howell. If you look at the matchup, how many times are you picking Daniel Jones over the opposing quarterback? And I don't know how many times I can realistically say, hey, I trust Daniel Jones. I need to. The reason why I said I need to see one more, and I'll go back to you in a second. The reason why I say I need to see another season of what we saw last year before I really change my mind is because I'm used to very, very bad Daniel Jones play. So if you can duplicate or even come close to what you did last year, then of course my opinion will change. But until then, he's mild sauce. like you don't really do anything to get your food wet. So that's about it.
So here's where I am with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones last year completed 67% of his passes, threw for which is average, right? Threw for 3,200 yards, which is also average, but it's also a career high for him. He did have 15 touchdowns. He did have 5 interceptions, and he had a 1.1% interception rate ratio, which means 1.1% of his passes were intercepted. No big deal, but for him, the reason why there is so much excitement across Giants fans is they always say, well, look at who he had to throw the ball to last year. It's a great point. That is a great point. He was throwing to you, me, and Joe Schmo next door, right? Now he has now he has Darren Waller. Now he has Jalen Hyatt. Two guys that automatically are better than whoever he was throwing to last year. Nothing against those guys. Nothing against Isaiah Hodges and whoever else, but they ain't Darren Waller and they're not Jalen Hyatt. So from that aspect, I understand the excitement around it. Here's the problem, though. If last year was Daniel Jones's career year, his best year, which statistically, aside from the touchdown numbers and the interception, or aside from the touchdown numbers, it was a career year for him. But his career year was average.
And he got bounced. The second.
And he lost. And he got absolutely plastered in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So do I think that the addition of Darren Waller and Jalen Hyatt makes this offense as a whole more lethal, more at least something to think about defensively? Sure, I do. I think when healthy, Darren Waller is one of the better times in football, and I'd like to think that Jalen Hyatt can make some noise in his rookie year. Obviously, you have Saquon Barkley, but Daniel Jones's career year last year was average. Daniel Jones has still yet to throw for 4,000 yards in a season. And while I think it's possible for him to do that this season, here's the thing. We've officially reached an era of football where we're throwing for 4,000 yards in a season.
Is average.
Yeah. It's average. Like it's like every year the list of quarterbacks that throw for 5,000 increases, or more specifically that throws for at least like the bar is 4,500. Like, if you want to talk about your team having an elite passing attack, then your quarterback needs to have thrown for 4,500. Can Daniel Jones throw for 4,500 with this offense? No, he can't. He just can't. There's not enough. There's not enough there yet. So if Daniel Jones is exactly who he was last season, which is average, the Giants will make the playoffs because the NFC is average. But if Daniel Jones is the same as who he was last year, then why did we just pay him this past offseason? And what are we trying to prove if Saquon's not going to be here next year? If what we got last year is who Daniel Jones is, which is a touch over 3,000, a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and 67% completing of his passes, that's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Not when you'd have to go play Pat Mahomes, who's throwing for almost 6,000 every year and at least 30 or 40. Not when you might have to go see Joe Burrow, who might not have as many passing yards, but will throw more, probably as many touchdowns and less interceptions. Not when you have to maybe see a guy like Lamar Jackson, who definitely won't throw as many passing yards, but the 1,200 yards he won't have passing, he'll have it on the ground. So it's not, again, going back to Sam Howell, like you said, how many times consistently would I confidently say, aside from the 2 games against the Commanders, would I be able to confidently say Daniel Jones is the better quarterback on the field today? Unless he just happens to outplay the opposing. I can't. So will he run it back? He could. That's not a good thing. You don't want him to run it back. You want him to improve on that. You want him to not be average. And right now, at best, Daniel Jones is going to be average this year. Again,
I think I'm gonna add another comparison. The reason why you pay someone with an average season like Daniel Jones had is because you're starving for what you've had. We talk about the 2019 Toronto Raptors. They've been trying to get back to that place since then. And they're late. They should have been moved past Siakam. They should have been either went all in with Fred VanVleet or moved them a while ago. Like Kawhi Leonard was that, and that's it. When you look, this team is starving for playoff Eli Manning. And they've gotten so much, like you said, mid from Daniel Jones. The one time he looks better than anything he's looked like. Oh, we got to attack. We got to pound from that. We have to keep that. I think that it was a massive mistake going with. I said this. Yes, it's a quarterback driven. But when you don't have a 1% quarterback like a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, you need to focus on your best player. And the Giants' best player is Saquon Barkley. So I do think that it was foolish to prioritize Daniel Jones, who we've seen. This is his best season, and you get boat raced by the Eagles. Compared to Saquon Barkley, who has emerged as one of the best running back. The Giants organization, the Giants fan base, the Giants as a whole is they're clinging on the past. The past where they were competing for Super Bowls year after year, and they think just because you have Brian Daboll, you have Daniel Jones, that had one good season. I'm sorry. Average season. That's what we're going to attack with.
Yep.
So, and we just said the NFC East has one of the toughest. The division as a whole has one of the toughest schedules this year.
Yep. Not even one of the toughest schedules this year. They have, as from a division standpoint, like from the whole, they have the toughest schedule this season. Yes. They went from having the easiest last season as a whole to the toughest.
So it's like you were mid against the easier schedule. Let's see more. I feel like this year you're going to see the real Daniel Jones. And while yes, Brian Daboll was able to unlock something in Josh Allen, nobody here. Nobody on the face of the earth except maybe Daniel Jones' family thinks that Daniel Jones is anywhere close to Josh Allen. So we're really going to see, was last year a fluke, or is this what we should be known or used to? And like you said, his best year was average for majority of the league. At least majority of the league that thinks they're Super Bowl type teams.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the entire NFC East is kind of in a position where there is a status quo, and then the question becomes: is there going to be a new one?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there's one team who is not allowed to not be reminded of their past, and that is the Dallas Cowboys, who haven't appeared in a conference championship game in 27 years, which is tough. That's tough. I wasn't thought of. So let's put it this way, right? We love to mock the Dallas Cowboys because their fans are always like, next year is our year. And recently there has been good reason to think that maybe that year could have been the year for the Dallas Cowboys. Looking at what they have offensively, looking at what they have defensively, looking at, Mike McCarthy's stance and what I think could be his last season as a coach in the NFL. Is it reasonable to expect the Dallas Cowboys to be competing maybe for a championship this year?
I don't mean to plug my podcast, but I'm putting out a short or reel or whatever it's called about the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow. And I'm going to do another comparison. I'm sorry, Go Talk fans or Go Talk listeners. To me, Dak Prescott is Paul George. Now, hear me out. We've seen Paul George look like a top 10, top 5 player on any given night. We've also seen Paul George shoot a 3 and hit the side of the backboard. What I'm saying is, this team, I will admit that this Cowboys team is a Super Bowl caliber team. Michael Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard, Dexter Lawrence, Zach Martin. You have a solid squad. You also got Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cook. It doesn't matter. And I'll even go back to what you said. Gone are the days where you can have a game manager quarterback. Some games, Dak Prescott looks like not even know. He doesn't even look that good to be a game manager. He looks awful sometimes. Sometimes he looks like a top 10 quarterback. I need to see more consistency from him. Because especially when you look at just how weak the NFC is, I could very well see them competing in the NFC Championship against the Eagles. I could also see them getting bounced wild card or round two because Dak Prescott throws 3 interceptions, one of which goes for a pick six. And this is not even I'm not even talking as a Commander fan. I'm talking as somebody that has seen this team implode the same way year after year. This team has always had a good roster. Last year, you had one of the underrated tight ends in the league in Dallas Goedert. Like not Dallas Goedert. Dalton Schultz. It's like it doesn't matter how good. Think about it. You think that if Sam Howell was the quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, you think that they'd still be in the same position that they are? No. And I'm not saying that Dak Prescott is on the same level as Sam Howell. But what I'm saying is until we see consistency, it's hard for me to say that this team is a Super Bowl caliber team. Do they have a Super Bowl caliber roster? Yes. Do they have a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? That is yet to be seen. And Dak Prescott to me is not even good enough to overcome the poor coaching, or let me say, poor clock management from his own coach.
Sure.
So I need to see more consistency. I don't need to see more. I need to see more consistency. Because when he looked like the best quarterback in the league, playing against the Chargers.
Yeah.
Or playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
But then when you play the 49ers, or when you play Washington last. So all I'm saying is, man, yes. This team is definitely a Super Bowl caliber team when you look at the name. But until they get consistent play from their quarterback, they're always going to be in that perpetual loop of we let a few get away. Maybe next year.
I'm going to shoot Dak Prescott a little bit of bail. That's kind of like become my identity on the show somehow the past year and a half. And as a son of a family that loves the Commanders, I haven't really been endearing myself to the Marcus family. But I got to do what I got to do. So when you take a look at Dak Prescott's year-over-year touchdown interception ratio, his rookie season, which is obviously the best season they had as a team, they went 13-3, had the first seed, lost to the Packers, which I thought was great. His touchdown interception ratio that year was 5-1. He is yet to match that. 5 touchdowns to 1 interception, rounding. Last year, his touchdown to interception ratio was 1, like just less than 2-1. Right. The year before that, in 2021, it was it was like almost 4-1, 3.7-1. In 2019, it was just shy of 3-1 again. And in 2018, it was also like just shy of 3-1 again. So this is the worst touchdown interception ratio that we've seen Dak Prescott have since 2017. He also threw the most touchdowns he's ever thrown in his career last year at 15, which for a lot of people is a problem because he also missed 5 games of the season with the ankle injury. Here's where I am with Dak Prescott. I don't need to see more from Dak Prescott because I know who Dak Prescott is. Right. So like, again, if we use the Colin Cowherd analogy and we take away your best season and we take away your worst season, that means like, and for Dak, we're taking away 3 seasons because in 2020 he was hurt. So that season doesn't count. If we're looking at 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2021, what Dak Prescott has shown us is that he is good for at least roughly 3,600 yards, somewhere around 24 touchdowns, and maybe 9 to 10 interceptions. That stat line for any other quarterback I know is considered good enough to take a team to the Super Bowl. The problem is Dak Prescott plays for the Dallas Cowboys. And I feel like when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, we put so much pressure on the wrong person for their successes and their failures. Dak Prescott is not the person to blame for why the Dallas Cowboys haven't been to a Super Bowl or a conference championship in 27 years. And he's also not the reason to blame for why the team has fallen apart so many times the way that it has. The problem with the Dallas Cowboys is Jerry Jones. And what we have seen time and time again is, despite using the good football sense that maybe God gave him, Jerry Jones makes decisions about the Cowboys that don't make good football sense. For example, if you are going to pay Ezekiel Elliott the first time around and then also pay the offensive line, after it was proven that that was not working, that's a problem. Because then what happens? Dak Prescott's contract comes down the pipe. You end up trading for Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's contract comes down the pipe. Now, Amari Cooper's no longer there because you didn't have the money to pay him because you had to pay Dak because Dak deserved to get paid. Mm-hmm. So for me, this is a team that I think is Super Bowl caliber team. I think when you look at the other two teams in the NFC that you would say are Super Bowl caliber teams, it's the Eagles and the 49ers. The 49ers don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
The Eagles lost 2 of their coordinators, but they're still the best team in the conference by far.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers, if Brock Purdy is who Kyle Shanahan says he is, should be right back in the NFC Championship game this season. Maybe.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys are right there. And the only reason why we give the 49ers the edge is because of who the Cowboys have been and not who they are. For yet another season, I think this year the Cowboys are going to have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. There's not many teams in the history of the league that can say that they've done that in one season. There's even fewer teams in the history of the league that can say they've done that in consecutive seasons. This is a team that was the number 1 scoring offense in 2021. So the problem isn't can Dak do it. The problem is, can we commit to a model in Dallas and stick to it? And like, as we talk about the Commanders, just let it like play out. Let things play out. Jerry Jones is stubborn,
mm-hmm.
and he makes decisions based on his emotions and not based on what the good football sense is. And there is no reason why Mike McCarthy should be your head coach in 2023.
Sure.
There's no reason why Mike McCarthy should be your head coach in 2023, especially when you consider the fact that you made basically the announcement without actually making the announcement at the beginning of last season that you want to have Sean Payton as your head coach.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity to go get Sean Payton if you would have cut ties with Mike McCarthy.
Mm-hmm.
But exactly what I said was going to happen before the season happened. They made the playoffs and they won 1 playoff game. And that was all Mike McCarthy needed to buy himself 1 more year. And because of who he is and because of his stature in the league, he was able to blame Kellen Moore because they didn't run the ball enough. Jalen, when do you know that the Cowboys had one of the best rushing offenses in football last year?
I did know that, actually.
So how much more do you want to run the ball than one of the best? Like, you can be number 1, but then why are you paying CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup to be there?
Well, can I counter that?
Of course you can.
I agree with everything you're saying to a certain extent. I agree that Dak Prescott isn't the reason for all 27 years. I agree that Jerry Jones has a tight grip on this franchise, and a lot of his decisions haven't matriculated to winning. I agree with you that in no way, shape, or form should Mike McCarthy be the head coach of this team. Even though it does sound like a little bit of a bitter Packers fan. It's all right. But what I will say is this. While no, it is not Dak's fault that the Cowboys haven't been successful in 27 years. A lot of the lack of last year was Dak's fault. When we talk about some of the what the hell interceptions. Like you ever look at them interceptions like when the dude catches it and you don't see an offensive player in the vicinity, and we're like, oh, maybe it was a bad route. Like, no, where is the
route?
So many times last year. Yeah, and you talked about the 49ers. And the 49ers is the perfect example of how to explain the Cowboys. When your team is as good as the 49ers or as good as the Cowboys, you don't have time for the wait and see, because that window is not, for instance, look at the Jaguars. Now, yes, they're better now, but they were in the AFC Championship a couple of years ago. Haven't sniffed that since.
Yeah.
Now, yes, we expect Trevor Lawrence to be better, but when that window closes, it closes. Hell, look at the Washington franchise. They used to be a marquee franchise. And then paid Albert Haynesworth. So what I'm saying is this. When your team is as good, when you have Minka or Michael Parsons, when you have CeeDee Lamb, and you have this window, because I agree with you that this Cowboys team should be Super Bowl contenders. You don't have time for a quarterback to have a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Because if that's the case, we'd be waiting all day for Trey Lance and the 49ers. But no, they about to get him out of there.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I agree. Dak Prescott is not to blame for 27 years. But you do have to look at Dak Prescott as into why is it that when you were the head or when you were the starting quarterback, there's always seems like a ceiling that your team is better than. Like last year. Your team should not have lost the way that they lost to the 49ers. Yes, we all think that Zeke was playing center. Like, I'm not going to forget that. Now, yes. You can't control what you can't control. Mike McCarthy should not be a quarterback. Should be a coach.
Sure.
Jerry Jones makes some head-scratching decisions. Like allowing your best player and Zach Martin to sit out or hold out pretty much all the training camp, right? But what you can control is your touchdown to interception ratio. And Dak Prescott had one of the worst last year. While missing 5 games.
Yeah.
And while yes. Me and you both agree that this team should be in Super Bowl contention. I think where me and you disagree is the level of responsibility Dak Prescott has to that final vote. Because think about it. And this is how I know it's irrational, but this is how I think of teams. If you had Joe Burrow as the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, how would that go? If you had Patrick Mahomes, if you had Josh, we didn't even go that high. If you had Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, do you think they would have epic flameouts year after year? And while it's not on Dak Prescott, Dak Prescott does hold a lot of that blame, in my opinion.
No, I do agree that there are moments where you look at Dak and there's just no defending it. Like this isn't like, okay, like I'm an Aces fan. I was sitting here on my couch yesterday. I was watching the Aces play the Liberty in the Commissioner Cup championship game. And I was looking at Kelsey Plum trying to figure out what was going on because there were just some things that she was doing in that game. It just wasn't making sense, right? Yeah. And so from that standpoint, I do understand and agree when you look there. Hey, pick 6 at the net Commanders game last year. I don't know why you thought going to the exact same player in the exact same spot on the exact same play with the exact same route that failed 30 seconds before. I don't know why you thought it was going to work again. That is an issue where you're like, okay, like that's a problem. But I also think, again, like we've also seen, the problem with Dak is Dak's up and downs aren't like the game-to-game up and downs that a lot of quarterbacks have. Like Dak has season-to-season up and downs. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes with the fan base because, okay, so you take a look at 2016, his rookie year, he goes for 23-4. What I think is if I'm not mistaken, that season, he set the record for the most pass attempts without an interception for a rookie, right? Yeah. He follows that up with 22-13. Yikes. Okay. He comes back this season after that, goes 22-8. So an improvement from last year.
Yeah.
He goes the year after that and he goes 30-11, which isn't that great, but he threw for not 1,100 more, almost 1,100 more yards that season. Then, of course, he broke his ankle the year after that. He comes back off the ankle injury. He's throwing for almost 4,500 yards. And he sets the record for most touchdowns thrown in a single season by a Cowboys player, 37 with 10 picks. And then he comes back this year, misses 5 games, doesn't get to 3,000 yards, and almost leads the league in interceptions.
Yeah.
So I think the frustration and where I understand where you're coming from is if we got more of the 2021 Dak, there wouldn't be a problem.
Nope.
Right. And I think people would be more comfortable to say, okay, it's Jerry's fault, or okay, it's Zeke's fault, or okay, it's Mike's fault.
Yeah.
But when you follow up a 4,500 yard season with almost 40 touchdowns and 10 picks, and you're the quarterback of the number 1 offense in football, with not getting 3,000, missing 5 games because of injury, less than 25 touchdowns, and being second in interceptions in the league, then it's tough.
And
so
I'm going to add to that, and having a player on the defense that a lot of people recognize could be the best defensive player in the league, and
absolutely
having a wide receiver that people can argue is a top 10 wide receiver in the league.
Sure.
So you have, it's not like you're on a talentless boat.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention, you have arguably the greatest offensive lineman in NFL history.
Yeah.
And you have the numbers that you have.
I think in Cowboy fashion, Dak Prescott put a target on his back this year because he guaranteed he would throw less interceptions this year than he did last year.
He threw 10 in practice.
He also guaranteed he'd have less than 10. So now what Dak has done,
get him out now,
is he has invited everybody at home, everyone in the organization, and everybody else that watches football to keep track of the number of interceptions he throws this season. Because if it even gets close to 15,
oh boy, if it gets close,
if it gets close to 10, we're gonna have
let it get close. It's gonna be a bye week. Oh boy,
yeah, it's gonna be an issue. So, but he means well. Dak recognizes what it means to be a Cowboy, and I understand that. It's just tough. It's just tough to wear the star on your helmet every week. There is no denying that. One last team to talk about in the NFC East before we switch to the AFC East. And that is the runner-ups to the Super Bowl, not the Super Bowl champions, like what's his face said the other day. Miles Jack said the other day in his opening presser. The Philadelphia Eagles, we saw a lot of changes, and you kind of alluded to some of them. They lost both their coordinators, obviously, to head coaching jobs. They traded away some pieces. They brought in DeAndre Swift. They brought in more players from the Georgia Bulldogs defense to beef up the defense. The question, because we all want to figure out who it is. If I say the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs are blank, do the Eagles go in that blank?
In the NFC, yes. Again, shameless plug. I talked about this on my podcast just today. To me, the two best rosters in football belong to the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. The thing that puts the Eagles over the top is Jalen Hurts. I think that, yes, you lose a lot this offseason. 2 coordinators, a bunch of defensive players, but you reload with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, and you still have the key pieces that you need. And people forget the Eagles have a double-digit lead in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think that, and I said on my podcast, I would be shocked if we don't see if the Eagles don't run it back this year. I'm not saying have the same record or everything, but and yes, the schedule will be harder. But Jalen Hurts has turned me into a believer last year. I think that this team has more to play for now that they've experienced the Super Bowl and understand how that feels. You always want to get back to that.
Yeah.
And now you have extra motivation because it kind of feels like this is Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey's last year or last few years.
Yeah.
I just think in the NFC, because you don't know the quarterback position and what's going on with that position for the 49ers, I have the Eagles as the biggest competition. And honestly, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC by country mile. And that's solely because of Jalen Hurts. Yes, again, I think if we talk about rosters, you can argue that the 49ers have the best roster in football, but the 49ers don't have Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. And I think that's the de facto reasoning why I think that the Eagles are the number one competition, at least in the NFC, for the Chiefs.
So I agree. They are in the NFC. They're not in the NFL. The biggest threat to the Chiefs in the NFL are the only team in the Pat Mahomes era to beat them numerous times, including in a playoff game. That's the Cincinnati Bengals. So we can set that to the side. Here's my concern. And I've been told that I put too much weight on these things. But when I brought this point up about the Broncos, I was laughed out of the building, and then the Broncos sucked and they missed the playoffs. So maybe I know what I'm talking about. I don't know. You tell me. The Eagles do not have their offensive coordinator. He has gone elsewhere to be a head coach. They've also lost their defensive coordinator. He has gone elsewhere to go be a head coach. There's no denying the talent that exists on either side of the football. I won't sit here and tell you that the Eagles aren't talented. I would be a fool to tell you that. But what I will tell you is that the loss of a coordinator matters just as much, if not more, than the loss of any given player, because now you're implementing an entirely new system, offensively and defensively, a system that you can only truly test its successes in an actual regular season game. You're not going to know if your offense is successful in a preseason game because A, your ones aren't playing the first minute to the last minute, and B, the defensive ones aren't playing the first minute to the last minute. You're not going to be able to test the success of your defensive system for the same reason. Your defensive ones are not playing the first to last minute of the game, and neither are the offensive ones of the opposing team. We are not really going to know if the offense and defense of the Philadelphia Eagles is still what it was until at least week 4. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take about 4 weeks. That's usually what it takes. You can't get a gauge on a football team until about 4 weeks into the season. That's really when you can start to tell who's who, what's what, who's great, who's not, who's going to be battling for a first overall pick, who's going to be battling for the right to play in the Super Bowl in a couple months' time. For me, I love the Eagles. There's no denying the talent. When you look at the leap that Jalen Hurts made, one of the biggest leaps we've seen on a year-to-year basis ever. And I think the leap from Pro Bowler to MVP is a much steeper leap from franchise guy, really good out of college, to Pro Bowler. It's not a difficult jump. To become an MVP candidate, you have to prove that you're one of the best in the business. It's a tough leap to make, especially at the quarterback position because of all the talent that's there. I am concerned about the Eagles from a coordinator standpoint. I am. And you can sit here and you can say, oh, well, the Broncos defense was still one of the better defenses in football last year. Yeah, they were. But they weren't great. They weren't elite. They were actually pretty average, if you want to be honest. They ranked 7th overall for yards allowed per game. They were 12th in passing yards. They were 10th in rushing yards, and they were 17th in points. So the name value was there. Yeah, oh yeah, Pat Surtain, yeah, big name. Simmons, big name. But the team as a whole changed because you are switching the identity of the team. The Broncos, again, this year, switching the identity of the team. That's a lot to deal with. And so for the Eagles, when you go on to mention that they lost a couple linebackers to other teams, one of whom went to the Bears, the other one went to the 49ers, both of whom had career years for the Eagles last season, that matters. You're bringing DeAndre Swift, who I like, but is DeAndre Swift going to be able to do the things for you that you want him to do the way that Miles Sanders and Boston Scott and Kenneth, there's a lot of moving pieces. And as lazy, as corny as this may sound, the schedule matters. When you have 10 games against going into the season were 7 of the worst teams in football, the entire AFC South and the entire NFC East twice, that mattered. Now your schedule's tougher.
Yeah.
It's not a cakewalk anymore. Like, the league knows what's up. Jalen Hurts is here. The Eagles are here. They want to compete for a championship. That matters. There are expectations now. And do I think they'll still be the best team in the conference? I do think that. I agree with you. The reason why they're the best team by a country mile is because Jalen Hurts is the better quarterback over whoever the quarterback is in San Fran by a country mile. That is the difference. But I have a hard time just confidently saying that the Eagles are going to dominate the way that they did on both sides of the ball last year.
Well, I think it's hilarious. Which I agree with you that losing coordinators are important. But the fact that you never mentioned that Nathaniel Hackett was the head coach of the Denver Broncos is hilarious. And
maybe that's my Packers bias. So
what I'm saying is I agree that losing coordinators are important, especially when they're as vital to a team as the Eagles. That's why I'm very interested to see what the Baltimore Ravens look like this year. First year without Greg Roman. Lamar. First year out of Greg Roman. But the only pause that I have, I think that yes, losing coordinators are important. But I don't think it's as important because you still have Nick Sirianni and you still have the key pieces to your team. The thing that I am gives me pause is the schedule. And I do agree with you when you say schedule matters. I mean, I was looking at it 2 days ago. After their bye week, they get slapped with like the Chiefs, 49ers, Bills. Like it's just gauntlets roll. And like you said, there is a difference having the worst or the easiest schedule to the hardest schedule next season. So I am interested to see. I hear what you're saying about the coordinators and everything, which I agree to a certain extent. But again, when Nathaniel Hackett, I mean, I'm sure I can call better players than that. So all I'm saying is because he's just so outside of maybe one or two things, I don't think that the coordinator is going to be as important as it was for the Denver Broncos. But I also don't think that Nick Sirianni is going to turn into head coach Hackett. And I think that you're going to see the real Eagles. Even though I know it's late in the season, I think you're going to see the real Philadelphia Eagles after their bye week. Because that's when you're playing teams that you could possibly see in the Super Bowl. And we're really going to see, is this a Super Bowl caliber team this year?
Yeah.
Or they can get their bye week and leave it trash. And to me, I'll be shocked. Because again, they do have a schedule, but when you look at that roster and going off of what we saw last year, to me, that team falling off a cliff is very hard to see. So
that's fair. That's fair. Let us switch gears to the AFC East, and we'll do so by talking about a former NFC East player that has switched conferences, but not necessarily divisions. I would imagine this is a super quick and easy segment because there's really not much to talk about the Patriots other than Ezekiel Elliott. It was a very mediocre football team with a lot of mediocrity all around it. Maybe Bill Belichick's last year, maybe not. Who knows? He doesn't want to talk about it. Does Ezekiel Elliott move the needle for you at all in New England?
No, because Mac Jones doesn't move the needle for me. I put Mac Jones in the same basket that I put Kirk Cousins, that I put a lot of the mediocre quarterbacks. I think that Mac Jones' highlight was him walking like a happy father on draft night. He's had. I just and yes, I understand that he has talent, and it's just tough. Last year, you didn't even have an offensive coordinator.
No,
I don't know what's going on there, but I don't have much, especially with the division getting a lot tougher. I think that I don't even know who was their starting running back. So
I think it was Ramondre Stevenson. No, it was Damian Harris.
Yeah.
Damian Harris got hurt, and then it became Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, so Zeke is better. But I just don't think that in a already tough division, I don't think that really moves the needle, especially when the last time we saw Zeke, he was pretty much a goal line back. So, and as unfortunate as it is, I don't see the New England Patriots in the goal line too much. So we'll see.
I agree. Again, this is probably going to be the shortest segment of the show. There's not really much to dissect here. The Patriots are in that no man's land that you were kind of referencing earlier. Like they are, I think, by virtue of the defense and because Mike Jones isn't completely terrible, they are in a position where they are going to win enough games where they won't be picking like in the top 10. Yeah. But they won't win enough games where they're going to be competing for a championship. They're going to be in that 12 to 20 range when it comes to the pick. And unfortunately, when you are picking there, that is only good for you if you have a good GM. Bill Belichick is not a good GM. And Bill Belichick has never had a good draft. Of all the drafts that he's had as a member of the New England Patriots franchise, maybe the highest grade you want to give him is a C. But his past couple of drafts post Tom Brady have not been good ones.
Well, N'Keal Harry didn't work.
Not.
I mean, N'Keal Harry.
No, I don't even. He's not even there anymore. Where is he? I don't know. Who knows? He's probably in Chicago because that's where they're.
He might be in Chicago.
He's in Chicago. And again, like you said, looking at this division, we're going to get into all the other three teams in just a second. Starting with the Jets, they can't compete. Can't even hold a candle. Not offensively, not defensively. And I hate to say it, but like, is Bill Belichick even still the best coach of this division? No, hasn't been for a while. I would say for the past couple of years. So they're going to have to muster up the strength to figure something out. And I don't think Ezekiel Elliott each year has his yards per carry has gone down.
Yeah,
it's gone down. So pay him. Cool. If you are a Ramondre Stevens fantasy guy, that sucks because I know his fantasy stock went through the roof and now it's going to plummet because they're going to feed Zeke because that's the big name and they just paid him. But it's going to be a lot of mediocrity in New England. And that's not expert analysis. That's just the reality of the situation. It is not going to be fun. Yeah. There's no improvement. Needle hasn't been moved. So that's tough. Speaking of needle movers, we got Aaron Rodgers going to the New York Jets.
Green Bay.
I'm gonna try my best. I think I've done a good job so far throughout the course of the offseason of putting my bias to the side. I'm gonna try to successfully get through another segment in doing so. During his opening presser, his introductory press conference, Aaron Rodgers mentioned that the Super Bowl 3 trophy, is looking a little lonely. Well, I would assume so, given that it's been almost 60 years since Super Bowl 3. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Rodgers' chances of delivering a Super Bowl to New York this season?
0. And I'm sorry, 1 to 10. 1. And it's not because it's honestly not because of Aaron Rodgers.
Sure.
I think that Aaron Rodgers did play a lot in terms of what happened with Green Bay last year. I mean, when you have an entirely new wide receiver core and you don't show up for training camp, it's like and not to mention, Green Bay did suffer a lot of injuries last year.
Thank you. Yeah, we did. Jeez.
But you're asking a 40-year-old quarterback to go toe to toe with someone like Josh Allen, with someone like Joe Burrow, with someone like Lamar Jackson, with someone like Patrick Mahomes. And hell, even this division, someone like Tua Tagovailoa. Now we'll talk about him and his health, but I think that this is the best Jets team since Super Bowl III. But this team looked drastically different. Oh no, let me not say that. The teams around this team look drastically different.
Yeah.
And I understand that this fan base, this franchise is clamoring at the teeth for a Super Bowl. And when you're used to Mark Sanchez and Zach Martin and Mike White, I understand that. Ryan Fitzpatrick. I understand that it looks when you have arguably the greatest talent at the quarterback position. Well, before Mahomes got here, I understand. Like the energy's high, and I do think that there's a lot of unrealistic expectations on this Jets team. But those expectations were pretty much self-inflicted. When you get the big fit, you get Aaron Rodgers. And you also have a really good defense. You have Sauce Gardner, who can be one of the best cornerbacks in the league. You got Randall Cobb. So I just saw the report saying that they're in talks to probably get David Bakhtiari. I know, man. But I think when you look at their team, they have a shot, obviously, and they're a lot better than they've been. But when you look at the surrounding area, I don't. It's hard. I don't see them being better than the Bengals right now. Being better than the Bills. Being better than the Chiefs. Being better than the Ravens. Arguably being better than the Jaguars. I don't know. I think it's one. Not because the team, but the surrounding.
No, it's a one because of the team. You do not taking Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and Nathaniel Hackett and all your other Green Bay buddies and putting them in a different shade of green closer to the ocean isn't going to win you a Super Bowl. It's just not. It's just not. And that's with Quinnen Williams, and that's with Garrett Wilson, and that's with Breece Hall, even though he's injured, and that's with the new addition of Dalvin Cook, and that's with Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and what they have. There is no denying the talent. You can't just take half of the offense from your old team, take them with you a quarter of the way across the country, put on a different shade of green every Sunday or black, and think that it's going to increase your chances to win a Super Bowl. We have seen two veteran quarterbacks at this stage in their career change teams and win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. Matt Stafford. He was in a really good situation with a team that had been there before but couldn't get the job done just quite. The last two quarterbacks to do it are Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. We saw Russell Wilson do it last year, and he looked like hot garbage, looked like he didn't belong in the league. And to make himself feel better, he got Sierra pregnant. Whatever. And now it's Aaron Rodgers' turn. And here's the thing, right? Aaron Rodgers, there is no denying who Aaron Rodgers was. Denying who Aaron Rodgers was. Here's who Aaron Rodgers is. Aaron Rodgers is a 40-year-old quarterback who is past his prime. Who is not going to deliver a Super Bowl to New York. He's not. This isn't hating. This is just objective facts. Aaron Rodgers in 2023, he's not better than Patrick Mahomes. He's not better than Joe Burrow. He's not better than Josh Allen. He's maybe better than Lamar Jackson, but I wouldn't say so. And there's an argument to be made about whether or not he's better than Trevor Lawrence and or Justin Herbert. But because of who he is, I'll give Aaron Rodgers the edge. First of all, you're not winning this division. which means you're going to be a wild card team. Can someone tell me the last time Aaron Rodgers won the playoff game on the road? It's been a while. It's been a long while since Aaron Rodgers. First of all, it's been a while since Aaron Rodgers has won a playoff game.
Oh, you hate me, bro.
It's been a while since Aaron Rodgers won a playoff game. It's been even longer since Aaron Rodgers won a playoff game on the road. So I as a fan of Aaron Rodgers, the player, not the person, because the person is an absolute douchebag. As a fan of the player who has carried me through a lot of happiness and some moments of despair throughout my very short life here on this earth, like I'm very appreciative for what Aaron Rodgers has done for the Packers. But I, as a Packers fan, have also had a front row seat of what you can expect from Aaron Rodgers at this phase of his career. So if you're a Jets fan, let me explain to you what's going to happen. Aaron Rodgers is going to go out there on 9/11 at home against the Bills, and he might actually have a great game. And y'all might win that game. And he's going to have you feeling good. And then there's going to be a lull in the season where things aren't clicking. And he's going to remember that he's in his 40s and most of his teammates are in their late 20s. And he's not going to want to show up to work. And then he's going to throw a hissy fit. And then Robert Taylor's going to have to play peacekeeper. And then they're going to get like one big win down the stretch. Maybe it's against the Bills, but the Bills are kind of like shaky. And they'll sneak into the playoffs, and there'll be a little bit of hope because you've been without playoff success or any kind of success for a very long time. And he's going to talk about, again, how he's just ready to deliver a championship to New York. And you're going to be in a situation where you should win a football game. And let's just say, for argument's sake, you're going up against the Chargers. It's a winnable football game, and it's at home. And you show up as a Jets fan to the first home playoff game in God knows how long, and he absolutely craps the bed, and he chokes. And you're going to be sad. You're going to be depressed, and you're going to want to die. And you're going to be like, why on earth was I excited? Why were you excited? Because Aaron Rodgers is a con artist. Because he's very good at what he does, and he's very good with his words. The Jets are not winning a Super Bowl, not this year or not next year. It's going to be another 50 years before the Jets win a Super Bowl.
I got the Jets winning the division, though.
They're not going to win the division, bro. They'll win. They're not going to win more. They're not going to win more than 11 games.
Well, I think we're going to talk about the Bills in a second, but I just think that I look at this team, man. It's a good team. I understand. I mean, I know it's a different feeling having 12 and Aaron Rodgers on your back instead of Jordan Love and number 10. I understand. You get it. So, but all I'm and yes, a lot of what you said was true about Aaron Rodgers has come short in a lot of those playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
I would, I guess, play devil's advocate. A couple of those games, your defense was god awful. So now you could have scored a point against the 49ers at home, but hey,
could have.
I don't know, man. I don't have faith in them because of the quarterbacks. But if you talk about this roster by name, or if you look at the roster on paper, this is arguably the best roster in football on paper.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Football is not played on paper. Sports is not played on paper. I need to see how is Dalvin Cook gonna blend with Breece Hall. How is Garrett Wilson gonna blend with Allen Lazard? I'm not saying Allen Lazard is on the same level, but Sauce Gardner, how is he gonna be able to duplicate his defensive rookie of the year and improve? And I think that what the Jets are hoping is that you finally have grown up in the room. At the most important position. And you're hoping that while you don't think he's going to be the best quarterback in the league, but you hope that he can elevate your team enough that they're good enough to compete against some of the best teams. Instead of going week after week and thinking, oh, who we got? Mahomes? Thank God we have Zach Wilson. You know, like Now, no,
Yeah.
again, I agree with you. I don't think that this team is going to win a Super Bowl, but it's not because of them. It's just because now you're playing any given. Aaron Rodgers isn't used to any given Sunday. You're playing against, or you can argue the second best quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Like,
that's yeah, that's
The
true.
last time you can say that is when Drew Brees and Tom Brady was in the league.
Yeah.
So that's going to be new. But
Yeah.
and again, we're going to talk about the Bills in a second, but I do think the Jets are probably going to win the division, but that's only because of the, let's say, interesting offseason that the Bills have had.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take on the Jets.
Yeah. Before we get to the Bills, let's make a pit stop in South Beach. Let's talk about the Dolphins really quickly. What's the ceiling for the Dolphins? If Tua plays all 17 healthy, what's their ceiling?
AFC Championship.
Yeah.
I think that they have a really good defense. They have a really good roster. We need to see, of course, the health of Jalen Ramsey and what he looks like when they come back. But you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle. Honestly, the ceiling is however healthy Tua can be. Now, I'm not saying that when Tua is playing, he is the best quarterback. But we have seen. I mean, I will never forget. I understand that it was a lot of the Ravens defense, but I will never forget them being down 20 points going into the fourth and winning the game.
Yeah,
and Tua throwing for damn near 600 yards that game.
Yeah.
So we've seen Tua have flashes of a top tier quarterback, and a quarterback that can lead a team to a deep playoff run. But we've also seen Tua damn near die on the field. And at some point, you gotta. I know football is a gladiator sport. But you gotta think about your health. Like at the end of the day, football stops, and you hope that you don't stop before football stops.
Yep.
But if you look at this roster, it's a good roster.
Yep.
And I do think if he's healthy and he continues to play like the good Tua that we've seen, that this team not only can win the division, because I think that it's one of the better rosters. I think that they can make it all the way to the AFC Championship. I don't know if I put them over Bengals or I will say that their defense is better than the Bengals. Or put them over the Chiefs. Even though I will say they have a better offensive wide receiver core than the Chiefs. But it's all about Tua health. You can't. The ceiling, honestly, is how healthy Tua is. And if he stays healthy, which is a big F, because he hasn't stayed healthy since his first year in Alabama. To me, they can be Super Bowl AFC contenders. But yes, it's all about Tua.
I would say a Miami Dolphins team with a healthy Tua from start to finish can win the Super Bowl this year. I think, and I would say the reason why, and you kind of made the point. So the Bengals have a great offense, defense not so much. The Chiefs' offense is Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But what I will say about the Chiefs is Isaiah Pacheco, I think, is going to have a great year this year. I think Sky Moore could go for 1,000 this year, and I do like what I've been seeing from Justin Ross as well in training camp, and so that could help there. But their defense can't hold a candle to the Dolphins' defense. So what I look at is, for me, to me, the three of the four best teams in the division are in the conference undeniably are Chiefs, Bengals, and Jaguars. I do think the Jaguars are in that conversation, and they'll kind of prove that this season with Trevor Lawrence having what I think could be an MVP caliber year. But the Dolphins have a more explosive offense and a better defense than the Jaguars as well. Yeah. So as long as Tua is healthy, they can make it to a Super Bowl, because it's going to come down to essentially, can the opposing offense do enough to beat down on Miami's defense? Miami got a good defense, dude. Like they do. Like they have a very solid defense, and of course, like they've got the big names, but they also just have a lot of guys who like aren't big names but still can get the job done. It's a very complete roster. I would say probably once you get past the Steelers, I think there's a legit argument that maybe they have a defense that's better than, or at least rivals the defense that the Browns has. But those three teams are at the top of the league, at the top of the division, or the conference with defenses. You can throw the Broncos in there, but the Broncos defense is more so based on the secondary and not necessarily the front seven. Yeah. Those other three teams have very well-rounded defenses. If Tua's healthy, I think they can make it to the Super Bowl and they could win one. The issue, of course, then would be kind of what's been the theme of the show is, can a healthy Tua outplay a Pat Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or a Trevor Lawrence in a playoff situation? And then if they get to the Super Bowl, could he outplay a Jalen Hurts or maybe a Dak Prescott or whoever the other quarterback is? That's really what it's going to come down to. So the health, of course, is super important. But I think what we saw last season is when Tua Tagovailoa was healthy with this football team, with this offense, he's an MVP candidate. Because before he got concussed 3 times, which, again, you should never be, I don't care what position you're playing, you should never be in a situation where you can be concussed 3 times. 3 times. In a month and a month and a half of a span. Like, not like once in week 1 and then maybe again, like in like a month and a half, he was concussed 3 times. Mm-hmm. Like that's a problem. And that is something I think should have been investigated within the league, but they didn't. Whatever. I don't get paid enough.
Oh, like the Tyrod Taylor thing too.
Yeah. Like, how are you puncturing my lung? What are you doing?
What's happening?
You have a degree in this. You're supposed to know exactly where this needle's supposed to go, man. You're puncturing my lung. What are you doing? The only person that benefited from the Tyrod Taylor thing is Justin Herbert, because if that didn't happen, he would have started later. But
one quick thing to say before you continue is, I think a ceiling. Well, I think that we also have to be concerned about their offensive line. Because kind of like the Cincinnati Bengals, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you do not,
you can't stand up right.
If you can't stand up right, if Chris Jones looks like Lawrence Taylor in the Super Bowl, you have nothing. It doesn't matter. You're playing with one arm behind your back, and as we saw, while yes, at the end of the day, Tua Tagovailoa was the one that was concussed. A lot of that was because of his offensive line couldn't protect him to save his life. And last time I checked, they didn't do much to the offensive line. I know that they had a big injury last year, I believe, but
they did, yeah.
But I don't. We'll see. But that is a cause of concern for me.
Yeah, and it is a valid one. When you're talking about the most important position on the field, you're talking about the quarterback, and the people that get paid to protect the quarterback have to protect the quarterback, or it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. One last thing before we go. The Buffalo Bills, are they overrated?
No. The question should be, have they reached their potential? And the answer to that is also no. The Buffalo Bills, for years now, has had one of the best rosters in football. And whether it was a major injury to Von Miller or Josh Allen going to the other team, they've always, to me, hit a ceiling that has been self-imposed. I think that Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in football. Whether he does throw a lot of interceptions, but he also throws the most out of anybody in the NFL. I feel like it's run optional. like they don't even need it.
Yeah.
But I think that year after year, they have one of the better. I mean, you have Stephon Diggs, and you like I said, you have Von Miller, you have a great, you have Tre'Davious Wall. Like they have. I just think that they never one way or one reason or another, they never reach their potential. Now, yes, I understand that. I think that the magnum opus was the game against the Chiefs. The round two game. That was one of the greatest defense playoff games we've ever seen. Or let me say the ending was one of the greatest things we've ever seen. But like you're going into a season with a quarterback that throws the ball 95% of the time. But he can. But then that also opens you up to interceptions.
Yep.
You're going into a season with a coach that doesn't only really knows one side of the ball. And even that side of the ball isn't the greatest. You're going into a season where it seems like your organization has been working with the wide receiver, star wide receiver, and vice versa. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I have regret winning this division. Because I can't remember the last time a team that goes into the season with this loud of an offseason with negative press. When's the last time that team even went to the Super Bowl or made any noise? Don't get me wrong. I think they're good enough to be good. But there's a lot of turmoil, a lot going on behind the curtain with the Buffalo Bills. And I think that year after year, we see it rear its ugly head late in the season. Whether it's you have Gabe Davis, the best game he's ever had in his life against the Chiefs, but then yet you can't get a stop. Or the next year in the playoff game, you're at home in the snow against Joe Burrow, and two of their starting offensive linemen are out, and you cannot get the ball to Stephon Diggs. Who is being guarded by Eli Apple?
And not only that, the week before that, they almost lost to Skylar Thompson.
So it's like this team is good.
Yep.
This team is shocking to me that this team hasn't been in the Super Bowl in the last 3-4 years. But then when you hear the noise in the offseason, or you see how they lose, or you see some of the decisions, because we talk about Mike McCarthy not knowing the clock. Sean McDermott, like, dude, you might want to call a timeout here, brother.
Yeah.
You can't get these. You can't take these with you.
You can't take them with you. That's for sure.
Take them with you. I don't think they're overrated. I just think that by their own doing, they never reach their potential.
I agree, and I don't think they ever will. I think the window is closed in Buffalo. Joe Burrow's here.
Yeah.
Has been. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback not named Pat Mahomes in the league. I think, and this is just me personally, this is my personal opinion, we know that Patrick Mahomes is in a class by himself. And the thought of entertaining even Joe Burrow in that conversation, I think for a lot of people, they think that to be disrespectful to Pat Mahomes because of how great he is. And that's fine, rightfully so. I think it's time for us to admit that there's not another quarterback on Joe Burrow's level either. I think tier 1 and tier 2 are solely occupied by one person. Like, Josh Allen's not that guy. He's not. And I hope that me saying that doesn't get me kicked off the network, because Jerem is a Bills fan. And he runs it. He runs the show. So I hope that doesn't get me kicked off the network. But I mean, I have to be objective, and I have to call a spade a spade. Like, we're talking about a situation where come seasons in, at best, Josh Allen can be the 5th best quarterback in football. The 5th. 2 years ago, he was the 2nd. Right now, he's third. If Jalen Hurts does this season what he did last season, Jalen Hurts is better than Josh Allen.
Oh.
And if Trevor Lawrence has the season that I expect Trevor Lawrence to have this year, which is kind of MVP-ish, I'd be comfortable putting Trevor Lawrence ahead of Josh Allen. That would make Josh Allen the 5th best quarterback in football. I think.
On, bro. Are we forgetting that when healthy, Lamar Jackson had the Baltimore Ravens number 1 in the AFC?
He also has one playoff win.
Oh my God!
He has one playoff win.
Does Justin Herbert have one?
No, but Justin Herbert's teams have consistently been injured.
Now it's a team.
Hey. How many times has Justin Herbert made the playoffs? He made the playoffs one time. It was last year.
Okay.
He lost to Trevor Lawrence.
Well, the year before, they could have made it, but he lost to Derek Carr.
Brandon Staley lost to Derek Carr. That was not Justin Herbert's fault. That was Brandon Staley's fault. I mean, if you want to say Lamar, you can say Lamar. I personally
I'm saying Lamar.
I want to see Lamar Jackson win a playoff game. That's what I want to see.
He did.
Bro, when you get drafted and you have tears in your eyes and you're talking to Deion Sanders, probably the greatest corner to ever play the game, maybe even one of the greatest defensive players to ever play the game, talking about how you're going to deliver a Super Bowl to this city and you haven't even made it to a conference championship game. Like,
that's hard to do. That's hard to do. That's all I'm saying. Think about it.
I don't disagree.
How many Super Bowl winning quarterbacks are literally playing right now? Like 3?
Are playing right now?
Yeah, 2.
Patrick Mahomes,
and
Matt
Aaron
Stafford,
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco still in the league somewhere. Super Bowl.
Come on now. But I hear you. I'm not.
Jimmy G has a ring. He didn't win the Super Bowl. I don't know if you want to count that.
Yeah, all right. I
get your point. I get your point. I get your point. I think for me, again, you look at a guy like Josh Allen. So let's say Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in football, which I think there's no denying that he is. I think for me, I was being a little bit exaggerating as far as like the Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence part. But for me, where I was with Josh Allen last season is if you're supposed to be competing with Patrick Mahomes, but you are turning the ball over more than anybody.
Yeah.
Like by a mile. Forget interceptions for a second. Josh Allen led the league in red zone turnovers, picks and fumbles of any quarterback. No one even had half as many as he did. Like he had the most by at least 2 times. Like that's a problem. And I understand he throws the ball more than anybody, but for me, when you look at where the Bengals are, when you look at where the Chiefs have been, when you're talking about the expectation of the Ravens are finally meeting their expectations and arriving and being a threat, when you talk about the potential of what Trevor Lawrence can do this year with a healthy or with Calvin Ridley off suspension and all that good stuff, like when you have the Jets and the Dolphins in your own division, maybe the Browns of Deshaun Watson get like this is a super stacked conference, and so we know that the road to the Super Bowl goes through Arrowhead. We know that. So really, any other team outside of Kansas City's best shot of winning of making it to the Super Bowl is getting a high enough seed to host a playoff game just in case Kansas City fails. Like that's what it comes down to. And unfortunately for Josh Allen, at best, to me, at best they could be the 3rd seed because of who the Bengals have become under Joe Burrow. And that's not going to cut it. That's one home playoff game. So you have to go on the road to Cincinnati or maybe to Baltimore. You have to go to Kansas City eventually. I think their window has closed. It doesn't mean I don't think they can force it open by just having a crazy season and getting there. But if I'm going to assess the window for the Bills right now today, their window's closed. And until proven otherwise, I don't know if it's going to be open again. So there's just too much happening around them.
If their window's closed, and you and me both agree that their window is closed because of just the noise around them and just how good the teams are around them. How do you not have the Jets have no hope in winning the division?
Because I think despite the noise with the Bills have so my big thing is I very rarely am going to crown an unproven product. Like I want to see the Jets on the field.
Yeah.
I want to see what they look like. And the good thing for the Jets is, by virtue of who their quarterback is, but also by virtue of kind of almost making the playoff, like they have a schedule where we're going to see them play against some tough teams, aside from just the Bills twice and the Dolphins twice. If I'm not mistaken, they have a game against the Chiefs and they have a game against the Bengals. For me, I did the same thing with the Broncos last year. Like everybody wanted to say, "Oh, the Broncos Super Bowl contenders." I'm not that sure. Like I need to see what they look like, and they looked terrible last year. If I have to come back 7 weeks from now, because that'll be 7 weeks from now is week 5 of the season. If I have to come back 7 weeks from now and say, let's give the Jets their respect, I don't mind doing that. I'm just not, because like I've seen this movie before. I've seen the Aaron Rodgers feels revitalized movie, and it ended up not being successful. Now he's in a different place, and he's got this cool handshake now with Sauce Gardner that the league is telling them not to do anymore because it's promoting the use of drugs, whatever that means. But for me, the Jets, I think the Jets are playing with borrowed time, because one misstep and Aaron Rodgers can be gone.
Yeah,
he's 40. So even despite the restructure, if he decides to take his ball and go home, they'd still have to pay him. And Aaron Rodgers has proven that he has no problem taking his ball and going home. He's never done it.
Yeah.
But he's not afraid of making it known that if he gets to there, he doesn't mind taking his ball and going home. I think the Jets can get there. Just for me right now, I think it's a toss-up. I think it really is. I just think it's a toss-up. It's between those two for sure. Unless Tua's fully healthy and then the Dolphins just completely just blow everything wide open. Either the Jets or the Bills are going to win the division. We'll have a good idea of that, I think, after week 1 when they play each other for Monday Night Football. There's a lot of change. Whenever there's a lot of change in the organization, I'm always hesitant to play.
I don't know. I agree. The only recent time that I can say where it worked was, of course, the Rams. The Rams, and I think that the Jets are trying to do the same thing the Rams did. The Rams went all in for that 1 year. Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Odell Beckham Jr., Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, Matthew Stafford. They went in that 1 year, and it paid off. Mind you, they're not in the AFC, and you don't have to go through Arrowhead. But yeah, I agree. I was very quick. Well, I remember I thought we were going to get the Russell Wilson from Seattle. That we did get that. But yeah, I don't know. I just go back to history. And you're right with when you see a lot of change that usually doesn't ultimately mean success. But I also when you hear a lot of noise, negative noise, in the off season, that also doesn't usually go well, especially in football, especially when you talk about your most important positions.
Yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, that's fair. I 100% agree. I definitely didn't anticipate to drag Jalen into the deep water like this, pushing almost 2 hours. But that's just what happens. Sometimes you forget there's a camera and you just start talking sports. I'm almost positive also that stuff about sports is over. Stuff about sports started at 8:30. There you go. It's all right though. This will get clipped up as it always does, and we'll post segments throughout the course of the week on the network page, and of course I will post clips on my socials as well. But before we get out of here, Jalen, can you please let everybody know where they can find you and all of your content for the Unpopular Podcast?
The Unpopular Podcast is a podcast where I give my unpopular opinion about sports. I post on YouTube. Actually, I post every Wednesday and Saturday. DSP is I post at midnight. Visuals, YouTube, I post 9:00 a.m. Again, Wednesday, Saturdays. You can follow me on social media, _the Unpopular Podcast on Instagram. You can also follow me on TikTok. I post on both platforms pretty much every day. And yeah, man. I engage with the people. Just keep it respectful. You know, and we're working in this industry. You realize that people get mad disrespectful, which is okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, no. Being disrespectful is not okay, but not having the same opinion is cool. Let's just keep it respectful, man. But yeah, new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday, and I appreciate it.
Of course, it's always a pleasure to have Jalen on the show, whether we're talking NFL or NBA. Next week, we will be doing the NFC and AFC South with my guy, Adam Lewis of the NFL with AJL. And we will conclude our divisional breakdowns on the 30th with Guru of Guru's Film Room to talk NFL West, so NFC and AFC West. That's going to be the longest episode of the series because he's not going to let me get out a sentence.
I'm almost sure he's going to try to make it seem like the Cardinals have a shot. They don't.
Yeah, he will. Yes, he will. Of course he will. I don't know why he loves the Cardinals. And then the week after that, on the 6th, we will do our final NFL season preview. We'll talk about some awards. We'll preview Lions, Chiefs, and talk about some other things. That show will be on the 6th. Time to be determined, guests to be determined. So just make sure you're tuned in. And in case you've been living under the rock for the past couple weeks and you don't know what's happening, Tuesday, September 12th at 7 p.m., the night before the WNBA playoffs tip off, myself and my guy Martin Soares will be debuting the Protect Our Queens podcast. There will be an announcement about that coming very soon as regards to who the guest on that show will be. I actually just missed a call from Martin during the show. I'm going to call him back. I'm assuming it has something to do with that. So be on the lookout for that as well, because that is super important. Not just the WNBA, but also college and high school as well. We're talking all things women's basketball. Not just breaking down X's and O's, but talking all things women's basketball.
How many podcasts you on, bro?
2. This one will be the second.
Hey man, you keep doing your thing, man. It's a beautiful thing to see, bro.
I appreciate it. I'm absolutely trying. There are people in my close family and friend circle that think I am stretching myself too thin. They're not wrong, but it's for a good cause. It's for a good cause. We want to do great things, and we want to shed some light not just on the NFL and the NBA, which is what a lot of people do anyway, but me personally and Martin as well. We want to shed some light on the world of women's basketball because it doesn't get the respect it deserves. So every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starting September 12th, there will be a new episode of Protect Our Queens podcast, barring any unforeseen circumstances. So be on the lookout for that as well. I also have an announcement later this month in regards to a way that I have decided to celebrate 3 years of GOAT Talk from earlier this month. So stay tuned for that as well. So for my guy, Jalen Hunter of the Unpopular podcast, this is Marcus of GOAT Talk and Marcus and the Give Us a Shot Network signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives.